wind up this press conference now, because I think
while he was running the country, two men were rarely far from his side. Top advisors Dominic Cummings, communications chief Lee Cain, Boris Johnson's closest aides, now revealing the chaos that engulfed his government.
How's your eyesight, Mr. Cummings?
Mr. Cummings was at the heart of power in a time of crisis. He now says the whole system was unfit and unprepared.
We realised gradually as we pushed and probed and asked questions for these plans that they fundamentally didn't exist. No.
For 4 hours, he set out what he sees as the scale of the failure and what was to blame.
Like all dysfunctional systems, it was a mix of a lot of the wrong people in the wrong job, decades of accumulated power, no real scrutiny and insight, a culture of constantly classifying everything to hide mistakes and hide scrutiny.
The inquiry heard an extraordinary array of foul language, messages and emails littered with the strongest expletives, laying bare the loathing between senior government figures.
I think I was reflecting a widespread view amongst competent people at the centre of power at the time about the calibre of a lot of senior people who are dealing with this crisis extremely badly.
Do you feel that you expressed your views too trenchantly, that your opinion of ministers and of the cabinet overstated the position?
No, I would say, if anything, it understated the position.
His boss was not spared the same disdain. In WhatsApp messages to Lee Cain in March 2020, Cummings said of Boris Johnson, "I've literally said the same thing 10 effing times and he still won't absorb it. I'm exhausted just talking to him and stopping the trolley," their nickname for Mr. Johnson. "I've had to sit here for 2 hours just to stop him saying stupid expletive." Mr. Cain replied, "I'm exhausted with him." The former spin doctor took the stand earlier in the day, he too turning on his old boss.
It was the wrong crisis for this Prime Minister's skill set. He's somebody who would often delay making decisions, would often seek counsel from multiple sources and change his mind on issues.
New evidence was presented from the diaries of the science advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance. They showed the Prime Minister apparently willing to let COVID spread through the elderly. Mr. Vallance quotes Johnson saying he agrees with the Conservative Chief Whip that we should let old people get it. Rivka's 72-year-old father died from COVID in early 2020.
I have to say, this talk today about age and how people over 80 were dying, therefore it doesn't matter, let's, make room for younger people. I mean, that is absolutely horrific speak. The language that was being used just speaks volumes about the attitude. There's a callousness and a lack of humanity that probably led to loss of life.
Behind this door, through 2020, Boris Johnson and team were trying to deal with the worst crisis for Britain since the Second World War. And everyone wanted to cut them some slack, hoping, praying that they'd make the best decisions for the country. Today, we heard about the hatreds, the contempt, the dysfunction. There was no pandemic plan, just people lying about there being a pandemic plan. We had an unfocused, indecisive Prime Minister, at one point apparently willing to write off an entire older generation. The question is whether today's hearings shame future politicians into making sure this never happens again. Once compared to a Rolls-Royce, when the machinery of state was properly tested by COVID, the systems didn't work and the people fell out with one another. It will take a lot to rebuild. Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.